Western Mass Bus Company is one step closer to introducing clean school buses to their fleet, thanks to funding provided through the President Biden's infrastructure law. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson has the story.
Dozens of yellow school buses will soon be turning green here in Western Mass, thanks to a grant from the federal government.
This will be their first real view of what an electric vehicle is and the technology that is facing them. How cool is that?
State and local officials gathering at Coburn Elementary School in West Springfield to formally announce the 25 zero-emission school buses that will be coming to several Pioneer Valley schools.
The once-in-a-generation federal funding right now is helping Massachusetts fast-track our efforts to fight climate change. The clean electric buses we're celebrating today represent an investment in the planet, in Pioneer Valley, and in the health of West Springfield families.
Back in December, the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative, which offers busing services to 7 communities, received a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program to purchase more than 24 zero-emission buses. On Monday, the elementary school's first-grade class even got the chance to ride the environmentally friendly bus.
The bus ride was quiet. It was not smelly, and in fact, some of the kids even noticed that.
David Cash is the EPA's regional administrator for New England. He tells Western Mass News that the goal of the program is to bring a greener and healthier tomorrow.
What that smell is particulate matter, which can really damage their health.
Traditional diesel buses emit pollutants that can contribute to a number of health issues like asthma. The Bay State has one of the highest rates of the respiratory illness in the country, with 12% of children dealing with the disease. It's a change West Springfield Superintendent Stefania Rashala says is a welcomed one.
It's very exciting to be part of the Lower Pioneer Valley Education Collaborative, but it's really exciting for the community in the Lower Pioneer Valley because we know for years how the pollutants exacerbate the asthma rate in this area.
And while we're already a month into the start of school, Rashala says that kids could be riding in a new fleet by the end of the school year. In West Springfield, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.